I've got to log on for work very soon, and I don't really know how I'm going to get through the day, to be honest. I could really do without it. I felt really bad on Friday at work. I just felt really irritated, and I didn't want to be around people, and people kept talking to me. I was like, I don't want to be rude, so I'll keep talking back, but I'm not feeling this right now. I just want to go home and be away from everyone. But I pushed through, got home in quite a bad mood because it had been like building. And I felt really tired, so I think I was just in bed reading. I was reading a book called The Night She Disappeared by an author called Lisa Jewell. Turned out to be a pretty crap book, would not recommend it. Hopefully, some of her other books are better because I've got a few of them. I thought it was pretty dreadful, but I was determined to finish. I've been reading quite a lot lately, haven't been on my PlayStation for like a month now. And I've been trying to just build some better habits. Not that there's anything wrong with gaming necessarily, but you know. Anyway, I felt bad all weekend, and normally when I feel bad, and I typically do get more and more tired as the week goes on. So by the time it's the weekend, I'm like, I am a bit tired, but I couldn't snap out of it. I was like, I've rested, I've slept okay. Why am I still so exhausted? Like the weather's really nice. I'd gone for a walk and like that didn't cheer me up. And normally, given that it's been winter, normally when spring rolls around, I'm like, oh, thank God. But I felt so bad and I couldn't shake it. And before I knew it, it was Sunday evening. I'm like, weekend's gone. I feel bad and I haven't got anything to show for it. What I didn't know, and this is something that I genuinely believe, is that energetically, if you got a connection with somebody, you can kind of be affected by how they're feeling. That might sound unscientific. Maybe science can't prove everything. I don't know. I remember when Bam Margera lost his friend and Jackass co-star Ryan Dunn in a car accident. He said at the time he'd been in France somewhere in a bar having a really good time. But then he suddenly felt very angry and he just started smashing this bar up, which as a celebrity, he can kind of be like, oh, my bad, I'll pay for that now. But he didn't know at the time, like, that was the moment that his friend had just died. And I told my mum years ago, if anything ever happens to Maisie, the family dog, but I always really thought she was my dog because I just loved her so much and she loved me. I was like, you got to tell me. If you're going to have to take her to the vets or anything like that, I want to be there with her and for her. Anyway, Monday morning rolls around. I've slept so bad Sunday night. And my mum texts me as I'm about to get in the shower about 7:30, getting ready for work, thinking this is going to be another bad day because I have no energy at all. I feel dreadful. And the text just says, hi, just letting you know that Maisie's not very well. She's not eating. We're going to call the vets at 8. And I'd been nagging my mum for a while. I've been saying Maisie's breath had been like really bad. I was like, that's not normal. It's not just bad breath at this point. Like, you need to, I think, take her to the vets. My mum's like, oh, she's nearly 13. What are they going to do? Just remove all of her teeth, which is obviously very expensive, and I get that. And also, like, she wouldn't have any teeth, so it's then awkward to eat. So they kind of thought, we'll just put up with it, I guess. But about a month or two ago, Ellen had noticed, and I hadn't, I just didn't see it or feel it. She said to me, did you notice Maisie's neck? I was like, what do you mean? She said it was really lumpy, like clustered with lumps almost, or just felt like she had this big thick bit here where her thyroid would be. So I thought, oh, that's not very good. So I mentioned it to my mum. And my mum really cared about Maisie, but for whatever reason, she was still a bit like she's 13. Of course, like she's getting older, she's going to have a few problems, but she's still eating fine, she's still walking about fine, she's okay. I noticed maybe a year or so ago that Maisie's hearing was really bad because as soon as I would get in the door before, she would hear me and be all over me, jumping on me, asking for treats or for a walk or whatever. So that was kind of sad. I would have to kind of creep up on her and touch her, and then she would slowly turn around and go, oh, it's you, and she'd still welcome me. But I'd seen that she'd slowed down and she looked older and she'd gone grey around her eyebrows and in places. But anyway, I spoke to my mum on the phone and she said, I think she told me that she wasn't really breathing very well. I was like, well, that doesn't sound very good. I was like, I'm not going to work if she's that unwell. Because before I thought, oh, maybe she's got a bad tummy. She's had that before. I'll pop over before work just to check she's okay. But I texted my boss. I said, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be able to work today. I'll take his annual leave. And he was fine with it. And I knew he would be because he's a very good boss. And I explained to him why, and he's got a dog, so I knew he would understand. As soon as I got to my mum's, though, with Ellen, Maisie was in my old bedroom on the bed. And I think I probably heard her before I saw her. She was just really struggling to breathe and kind of this heavy snoring. And this was like 9 o'clock, and the appointment for the vets was 11:30. And I took one look at her and I said to my mum, I don't know if she's going to make it until 11:30. Like, did you explain to the vets how bad her breathing is? Because, like, this is an emergency as far as I can see. Anyway, kept to that appointment as time was creeping up. I was like, all right, it's now an hour away. But I was really struggling to see her suffering. My mum's like, she seems okay. She's still a bit responsive. I was like, she's not okay. She's not eating. She won't drink anything. She's probably very dehydrated. Like, she keeps pausing. Like, it looks like she's about to die, man. Like, her breathing stops. I'm like, is she dying? And then it would resume, but so strained. And because I'd never seen her struggle like that, it was very, like, it felt very sudden and just so difficult, man. But the weather takes a nasty turn, which seems to kind of suit what's happening. And we get to the vet about 11:30. I'm holding Maisie in the back seats. She's not like laying down. She's kind of going from sitting and then getting up. I'm like just checking, holding her across her chest in case there's any bumps or we have to brake suddenly. There's loads of traffic because there's some roadworks. I'm like, oh, but we'd left a bit early. We got to the vet dead on time for 11:30. And the receptionist could not find the appointment. She said, there doesn't seem to be a reservation for your dog today. I'm like, my stepdad's the one at reception. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? She needs to see someone. So I'm waiting to see what they're going to do about it. But we're not walking away from here without her being treated because she's suffering, dude. Anyway, there'd been a mix-up. They'd booked her in for the next day, which is stupid. It was like, this is an emergency appointment. Okay, we'll book her in for tomorrow. Luckily, the vet says, or the receptionist says there's going to be a vet free. He's just got to make a phone call. And I was in reception just watching Maisie struggle to breathe. Like, I could see how dry her tongue was. She was panting. I was like, oh God, like, I can't bear to see this much longer. Please come out and get us in. Luckily, it was only about 15 or 20 minutes, and a young-looking guy, maybe a little bit younger than me, came out, friendly-looking. This sounds bad, because, like, everyone who's a vet is trained, but I was like, is this guy going to be able to deal with this? Because, like, he looks really young. I was thinking, I hope this man can help, because at that point, I knew I'd pretty much come to terms with we just need to, like, put her out of suffering. I don't think we're going to be able to save her. And he told us he kind of felt around. She was fighting a bit against it. Her breathing got more strained because she was stressed, like, who's the stranger touching me? And maybe she was in a bit of pain. And he said, there's really only three options. One, we can do a biopsy. But he was like, I'm pretty sure she's got lymphoma, cancer, and she might have it, you know, not just in her neck. We can find that out. We can give her chemotherapy. But I mean, he knew she was 13 almost. Like, you don't give a dog that old chemotherapy, in my opinion. Or we can give her steroids to kind of prolong her life and reduce some of the inflammation. But I knew from experience with Ellen's dog, who passed away last year, that steroids are not a good long-term solution. Like, they got a lot of side effects. And then he said, that brings us to the fuck. Sorry. You know what I'm trying to say. You know what the third option is, man. It was the only option. But it's just so hard. It's like, all right, we've signed the consent form to say that we're giving you permission to kill our dog. But because we care about her, not because we want her to die. And my stepdad and mum were obviously upset as well. My ears have gone weird. Hang on, I can only hear out one side. And he had to take her off into a different room to put in her, what do they call it? Not a catheter, a cannula, where they find a vein in the arm or a leg, one of her front legs. Brought her back in and, well, it was maybe about 5 minutes, so I was kind of just making small talk with my mum. My stepdad said he couldn't, like, bear to be in the room, which I understood, but I couldn't not be in the room, knowing they were going to be her last moments. I didn't want to... God damn. To be in this sterile environment with someone they don't know, with someone Maisie didn't know. And I was glad my mum stayed because I didn't really want it just to be me. But when he brought her back in, I'd say that was probably the hardest bit because she had this bit of red strap around her arm, red tape. And she looked at me and she recognized me, of course, when she walked in. She was still struggling to breathe, but she just still looked so young in her eyes, man. Maybe that's just my perception, but I was like, I had this doubt that we should be doing this. But I quickly rationalized, you know, when you're dealing with something so dramatic, your mind is racing, like, so all these thoughts, it feels like you're having 1,000 thoughts within like a second. And he says to us, what we'll do is, when you're ready, we'll start to put in the medicine, and she'll gradually kind of relax and fall to the floor and become unconscious to pain. He didn't word it that way exactly. I don't think they reference like pain, but he did say that she would go quietly because I said, is she going to like struggle? Because I'd heard before that sometimes dogs struggle, but that's just when they're getting the cannula in. And he gave us a moment to sort of say goodbye. He was still there, but I thought, like, what can I say? I'd already been saying goodbye to her all morning, so I was kissing her head. She did smell. And then he started to inject, and she, you know, did relax, and I was towards her face. My mum was at like her back and stroking her. But I wanted to be the last thing that she saw, I guess, because I felt like she was my dog, dude. Like, I just had this connection with her that while it was hard, she did go peacefully. I couldn't tell when she wasn't there anymore. At a point I said, is she still alive? Because I didn't know, like, how it's stupid because I don't understand this stuff, but I was like expecting her to go cold quickly, like, oh, I can feel like she's just not there anymore. But he just sort of looked and gave a nod, like, such a nice guy. His name was Matt, and I already wrote a review for the vet because I just thought he was so good in that moment. And I guess that's what they're trained to be. But the last thing you need in a situation like that is someone that's sort of going through the motions with their job. But, you know, it was sad. He'd never seen Maisie before. And that was that. And then the rest of the day is just I felt pretty numb. I'd cried a bit as we realised, like, the only option was to put her down. But as she was in the vets being put down, I didn't cry. I just felt sort of numb. On the way home, felt numb. And I said to my mum, sometimes I just don't know, like, if I can cry. Like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, I know I love that dog. Why am I not crying right now? But I got home, got into bed, felt pretty depleted. Had a bit of food. Ellen bought me a cheese toastie, catered to me a little bit, bought me a drink. She was going to go to the gym. She was luckily off work and she cancelled the gym because she didn't want to leave me, and she knew what it was like because her dog meant the world to her and, you know, passed away about 6 months ago, and her dog was 15 and she'd gone downhill in various ways. And then I was just looking through pictures, sending some of my favorite pictures and videos to Ellen because she loved Maisie as well. Obviously, it's a bit different when it's not your dog directly, but she was sending me pictures that I didn't really know we had, and then I was crying, and my throat was hurting. I was just happy to cry because I really needed to let it go. I don't want to walk around my life just like not being able to express stuff, keeping everything bottled up. And I think that is some kind of like trauma or trained response I have, and it's a bit of a problem. But it'll be hard for my mum and David because before Maisie, they had a Whippet who they'd had probably for a few years before they got Maisie as a puppy. So they've had dogs in the house for over 15 years. And now today will be really weird for them because my stepdad, David, obviously he wakes up quite early to walk Maisie normally. Or they hear her little feet across the kitchen tiles. And, it's just weird, isn't it? I it's going to be a bit easier in a way for me than them because I'd got used to seeing Maisie once a week or however often for brief periods of time. But yeah, that felt all very formal, and I kind of walked you through everything, but I felt like I just needed to talk about it. I got to log on for work in like 20 minutes. Man, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I was quite grateful to have had all of yesterday afternoon and evening to process it and to just lay in bed thinking about it. And I did then carry on reading. I finished another book and I started a new book, and I was like, I can't allow myself just to wallow. Like, I'm not going to force myself to feel anything. I know I'm going to be sad, and I know it's going to be hard go around my mum's house for a while and seeing that she's not there anymore, and she'll always be in my thoughts. And, my tendency in the past when something bad like this would happen would be to be like angry that death is a thing and that life ends with pain often because she was struggling in her last moments. And I don't know if I ever really explained, I was talking about the Bam Margera thing. I feel like I felt crap all weekend because Maisie had been suffering at the weekend and my mum hadn't told me yet. And then it progressed to getting bad enough that on Monday, obviously, we really need to go to the vets. But I believe that. I get down low energy a lot, but not to that extent and not for that long. So I feel like consciously or unconsciously, my body knew that Maisie up the road was really not well. And I'd actually tried to go round on Sunday. Did I say that? I might have said this. But I didn't have my key on me. I was going to see her and take her for a walk. And then I would have realized, oh, what the fuck? She's not well. But I'm just grateful that I had her in my life for 13 years, almost 13 years. I think it would have been around June or July. And it's what life's about, innit? Sometimes we get caught up in worrying about the future, worrying about money, worrying about our status in the world or material bullshit. But really, the most important things are people or animals, pets, because once they're gone, you can't get them back. No amount of money changes that. This is really long. I didn't plan on doing a nearly 20-minute video, so I am going to end it here. I know it's not unique. I know everyone loves their dogs to an extent, some more than others. For me, she wasn't just a dog. She was like my best friend. So yeah, it's going to be difficult. But I know in the future, I will possibly get a dog of my own when I'm able to, because I rent. And I don't know if I can cope with the energy of a spaniel, because they're very energetic, man. When she was young, up until really quite recently, she was just a ball of energy. And yeah, you gotta be the kind of person that's ready to get out of bed early in the rain. So I'm not sure, but that's it. I'm gonna go now. Gotta go to work. See you later.